The Beyond the Fame podcast is fed by Lido Pizza. Lido Pizza never cuts corners. For menu and locations, visit LidoPizza.com. This month's programming is sponsored by Signature Theater, presenting the DC premiere of the untitled, unauthorized Hunter S. Thompson musical. Follow the godfather of gonzo journalism as he barrels through American history in this critically acclaimed new rock musical now through July 13th. Buy tickets now at sigtheater.org. And of course, this podcast would not be possible without our longtime title sponsor, the Hollywood Casino at Charlestown Races in West Virginia. Upcoming featured entertainment includes Switchfoot on July 5th and comedian Ari Shaffir on July 12th. Details and tickets at HollywoodCasinoCharlestown.com. Must be 21 to enter the casino floor and attend a show. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Welcome to the newest episode of Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. I'm your host, Jason Fraley, picking the brains of the top filmmakers, musicians, and artists of our time. The new action crime thriller Sovereign opens in movie theaters today, starring Nick Offerman, Jacob Tremblay, and Dennis Quaid. I spoke with filmmaker Christian Swegal about writing the script and making his directorial debut, as well as our shared love of filmmaking great Sidney Lumet. Hey, Christian Swegal, hey, thanks so much for joining the show today.
Thanks for having me.
We are talking to the director of Sovereign, the new movie. It's going to be in movie theaters today. So let's start with the premise. Is it true this is inspired by true events? What, Arkansas 2010? How did you stumble upon this story and say this true story would be a cool cinematic tale?
Yeah, it is. It's inspired by a true story. It's a crime that took place in Arkansas in 2010, where this father and son duo of sovereign citizens who are kind of like anti-government conspiracy theory, adjacent types. They were traveling the country, and the father was giving these debt reduction seminars kind of after the 2008 housing crisis. And they continue to have run-ins with police, and basically, not to spoil anything in the movie, but one of those confrontations with the police turns violent. There was a murder, 2 murders, and so this film is based off of those events, and we try to stay pretty close to real life, very close to real life, with the actual Jerry Kane and Joe Kane storyline, which is the father and son. But then events outside of that have been fictionalized.
Gotcha. And I should say that, I said you directed the movie, you also wrote it. So it's a writer-director combo here. And go into a little more of, you mentioned that they have a sovereign citizen belief system. Obviously, It's timely. How did you fit those anti-establishment, anti-government themes? How do you think that reflects the current state of America? I feel like there's a lot of viewers out there, right or left, will understand that this is timely for what is actually happening.
Yeah. I mean, we tried really hard to make a movie that was apolitical. It's not taking a judgment on right or wrong. It's just trying to reflect reality, the reality of the world right now, which is, I think there's a lot of distrust in official sources of information, in a lot of cases for good reason. And, people have a healthy skepticism of the government and of our institutions right now. I think there's been a loss of trust. And I think because of that loss of trust in the internet, you have all kinds of beliefs that spring up. And, there's sort of no official arbiter of truth anymore. And I think in this new reality, you have all kinds of fringe ideologies that take root and gain traction. And even though this crime happened 15 years ago, I feel like it speaks to the beginnings of a lot of what we're seeing today, and at least to the environment, and also to the motivations of maybe why those things sort of pop up in the first place.
Absolutely. Well, it'll be definitely a timely watch, folks. That's why you gotta run and see it in the theaters today. You gotta stay up on our quote unquote fictional narrative reflections on screen of what is actually going on in reality is how we work this stuff out. I mean, Alex Garland's Civil War last year, same thing. Like your filmmakers are always leading the way and grappling with our current events, and that's why movies are so powerful for me. Let's go into the casting. Obviously, the lead, Jerry Kane, is played by the great Nick Offerman. I think it might be his first leading role. I think. But he's
Mhm.
been in so many great things. When I first saw that he was cast in the lead of this, you immediately think of Parks and Rec. Ron Swanson. He was the ultimate, libertarian kind of guy. He
Yeah.
also was hilarious too. But then he was also like the survivalist in that episode of The Last of Us, like that great, what do they call it, a
Mhm.
bottle episode. It kind of stands on its own.
Mhm.
I mean, obviously he's a great actor. That's why you cast him. But in our audience's memory, we kind of think of him as this anti-establishment libertarian kind of guy. Do you think that lent a little, I don't know, credibility in casting him? Like, oh, he's perfect to play this.
I think it added sort of a meta layer of just texture to the role. Certainly, like when an actor comes with that kind of history,
Yeah.
there's commentary that comes along with that. Interestingly enough, like I I I like Parks and Rec, and but I wasn't one of those sort of diehard fans of the show just because I just didn't get a chance to sort of watch it so much.
Yeah.
And but I was really introduced to Nick, not introduced to him, but just sort of re-reminded of how great he was when I saw him in that Alex Garland series Devs
Yeah.
a
Two
while
Alex
ago.
Garland
And
references today.
yeah, I mean
Yeah, he's great.
we're we're a fan of the same actor.
Yeah.
He's Nick is incredible, but he's such a brilliant performer and artist and chameleon, really. And I think what he does with this role is really stunning. I think people will be introduced to him sort of even in a new way
Yeah.
from what they've seen him do in other dramatic roles, because he uh, he has a he has a beautiful warmth and sensitivity and openness, and he can play that paternal side of the character really well. And I think we're all comfortable seeing him in that role.
Hmm.
But then he also gets to play really dangerous and menacing and the villain.
Yeah.
And that's new for him, I think, and really exciting to watch.
A great actor of range and depth, and I highly recommend if you ever get a chance. I know you're busy, but definitely do a deep dive on go back and check out all of Parks and Rec. I was sort of in your same camp,
I've
like
I've started I've started to. Yeah, it's
well, I
incredible.
was I was about to say like I was kind of like you, like I'd seen episode here and there when it actually was on, and I thought it was hilarious. But then during COVID, my wife was like, "We're oh my God, one of the best shows," and we sat down and binged it all the way through. So I highly
I
recommend your.
love
And
that.
now it's one of my favorite sitcoms ever. So I think you'll love it.
I I know people are rediscovering the show. I feel like the
Yeah.
show's even becoming more popular these days. It's
It will
funny.
continue. The entire cast, top
Yeah,
to bottom, went on to be stars. It's incredible. But we're here talking Sovereign. And so playing Nick's son, Joe Kane, Joseph, is the great Jacob Tremblay, of course, of Room.
yeah,
We'll always remember. I mean, Brie Larson won the Oscar for that movie, but Jacob, man, that's arguably the best child performance of the last 10 years, maybe even going back to Haley Joel Osment if
yeah.
you want to take it even further back. But how have you seen him? I guess he's like 18 now. How have you seen him grow as an actor? In his late teens now. He's becoming like an actual leading man. He was in Wonder. He's done a bunch of roles himself where he was the leading man. But how do you think this role continues to show Jacob's range? I mean, he's going to be an actor that will be with us for a
Yeah.
long time to come. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. I mean, he started as a child actor, but he's mind-blowingly talented.
Yeah.
And you're working with an actor of that caliber. It's funny. He's young, but that doesn't mean really anything about his artistry. He's
Hmm.
he's such an incredibly uh, deep and kind of soulful person, and understands human emotion and character to such a degree at such a young age. But it was amazing working with him, because for me, I kind of just got to sit back and watch him do his thing.
Yeah.
There wasn't a lot of directing happening. I mean, not to sell myself short, but truly, when you have actors like that, like Jake and Nick, you kind of just set the stage and then get out of their way because they're brilliant.
Let them do their thing. Yeah, I mean, oh, absolutely. And then the other side of it, there's another father son in this movie that we should tell everybody about. It's the police chief played by Dennis Quaid, who a fan since Breaking Away and The Right Stuff and all that, all that stuff. And then playing his son is Thomas Mann. And people might remember that Sundance, that indie hit Me and Earl and the Dying Girl. I've actually had both Dennis and Thomas on this podcast. If folks want to look it up in the archives. But yeah, speak to their side. Why was it important as the writer and then the director, like to kind of have a parallel father son tales, and why were they the right two actors to tell the other parallel tale?
Well, I think because so Dennis Quaid is a legend. He's
Yeah,
and it's I loved his performance in this because it's really understated but so
yeah,
heartbreaking.
yeah,
And the beauty of working with somebody who's has that much experience is there just isn't a lot of conversation about kind of which direction to go with the character, or he just has the right answer. He sort of showed up, he had a take, it was the right take, he does it, it's fantastic. He does his thing, and that's sort of the end of the story. And Thomas, I just think the pairing of those two together, Dennis plays this really kind of traditional, you know, patriarchal, masculine
yeah.
father, and Thomas has this like he plays this amazing sort of like golden retriever, younger, son that's trying to please his dad, and they're both really subtle performances, and they just, there's not a lot on the page for in terms of big dramatic scenes, for Thomas, but their interaction and I think their just rapport fills in so much of that, and it's just a testament to what great performers they are, and also then Nancy Travis and Martha Plimpton are brilliant in the movie as well.
Oh, the cast top to bottom. I mean, Martha Plimpton. Did you ever see that movie Mass about the school shooting with Jason Isaacs and
Yes.
Martha Plimpton
Yeah.
and Dowd?
Yeah.
Whew, man. I mean, always putting it in good work. So yeah, you
Yeah.
you definitely cast this thing very very well. And now that I think about it, Dennis Quaid just wasn't he? Didn't he just play Ronald Reagan? So there you go. That's perfect for he's the authority, and then now we have the other people railing
Hmm.
against him.
Hmm.
Well done. Well, we mentioned Alex Garland Civil War, but I was going to ask what other touchstones reflect these anti-hero, anti-establishment figures. Like you could go all the way back to Arthur Penn's Bonnie and Clyde in '67. They're the
Hmm.
bank robbers, but the regular folks during the Depression are rooting for him to go against the law. And then I guess more recently there's Hell or High Water. I would probably say,
Hmm.
and that was Taylor Sheridan wrote that before he went on to make Yellowstone and all that
Hmm.
stuff. So yeah, what I don't know. Were those two touchstones? Are there any others that actually inspired you in terms of like the visual look you wanted?
We were our references were kind of strange, I think, at the time
Yeah,
in terms of references we actually used during production.
sure.
They were mostly European films that didn't have a lot to do with the story we were telling at
Which
all.
ones? Let's go. Which ones? I'm curious.
Well, I love that movie Close. I don't know if
Oh
you
yeah.
it's Lucas Daunt. I thought that had like a just a beautiful sort of realism to it, and a naturalness to it. There's a filmmaker uh, named Michelle Franco that I'm a fan of, who did a movie called Memory with Jessica Chastain, and he did a film called Chronic with Tim Roth. I liked the simplicity of that. I'm a Paul Schrader fan.
Of
Uh,
course.
First Reformed is one of my favorite films.
He actually came on this show to promote First Reformed. That movie underrated, I think. I mean, it got acclaim from critics, but I think in terms of like the awards and stuff that year, it should have done so much more. Ethan Hawke was
I
incredible in that movie.
that film to me just hits on every level, and I'm Sidney Lumet is a reference for me. I think Paul Schrader and Sidney Lumet are two filmmakers that I go back to a lot.
Yeah,
Certainly for the climax of the movie,
yeah.
everybody who's ever done a shootout in a movie, I feel like today references Heat, whether they like to admit it or not, in some
Heat.
level.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
I mean,
Michael
it's
Michael
the
Mann
sound
getting
design.
like
Yeah,
everybody go. Heat is an all timer, but Sidney Lumet too. Wait, what is your Lumet? We're just geeking out now. But what is your? Are you a Serpico or a Dog Day Afternoon? What is your Sidney Lumet?
I think Dog Day Afternoon and Network are my two
Oh
from
God.
him,
Oh,
and
Network
it's just
predicted
very
where we were going with cable news.
yeah.
We didn't even mention friggin' 12 Angry Men and The Verdict. Like, what a career.
Yeah, yeah,
Anyway,
yeah. I love, we're living in such an interesting time. I mean, to put it sort of mildly, I think I mean, there's so much going on in the country and in the world, and
yeah,
I love, I love films that have something to say about it, and
yeah,
I think there's a place for commercial filmmaking, and certainly this has aspects of commercial filmmaking.
sure.
And and I don't think you necessarily need to editorialize or lecture people,
No.
but I do think you can tell stories that reflect the real world we're living in. And that's what's most exciting to me. I think American filmmakers in the 70s did
Yeah.
that. I love those films, and so it's hard. They're hard to get made. But those are the kind of movies that I'm drawn to and the kind of films I'd like to make.
God, I would love if Hollywood could pivot for the tent poles, superhero, blah blah blah. But I'm really hoping that sort of like the fever broke, and now I hope Hollywood can enter a new renaissance like it did in the '70s, man.
Yeah, I hope
Because it was
there's
like The Godfather
yeah,
was the blockbuster, but it was
yeah.
an art masterpiece and network and all the President's Man. Like I would love to get back to that kind of
Yeah,
renaissance.
those films are the best, and I mean, there's a place for both, right? I hope
Of
there's a
course.
place for both. We're opening against Superman this week, so we'll see if
Best
there's a
of
place for
luck.
both. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
James Gunn versus Christian Swegal.
Yeah,
That's great. But no, there is a place for all of it. But that's why we need filmmakers like you to do the grittier stuff. It's
yeah.
yeah, the Bonnie and Clydes of our time. Let's go. Now that we're sort of geeking out, yeah, we'll wrap it back around to Sovereign at the very end. But we're sort of while we're
Mhm.
going down this path, I'd love to know sort of how you got into it as a kid. Like where did you actually grow up, and what were your favorite movies as a kid before you discovered like the film school
Mm.
greats, right? Like I want to know like where did you grow up and what did you love as a kid?
Yeah. Well, I grew up in Los Angeles. I grew up kind of all around Los Angeles, Pasadena mostly. It's funny. I in school the way I was introduced to it is my mother and my stepfather were in the music business.
Mm.
And because they were in the music, my mom was a songwriter, and she used to get Academy screeners from friends.
Ah,
And so my introduction to really a lot of my favorite films were these VHS cassettes that would come in every Christmas time around award season that we,
gosh,
you know,
VHS. Because yeah, I remember
yeah,
when they sent CDs, and now it's screener links or portals.
yeah. I remember they'd come in these big boxes and,
Yeah,
we'd borrow them from people and it'd be this big secret that, you
yeah.
had to never show anybody. And I remember watching Heat on VHS. I remember watching Casino on VHS, and they were
uh,
both in those double box VHSs.
Same year. I
That
think it
they'd
was
sent
both
out.
95, right? Yeah, same year.
That year was really imprinted on me. And and so I loved, when I was little, I loved Star Wars and Ewoks and stuff like that. But I think as I was getting into middle school and high school and really starting to form my own taste, those screeners that came around were like the most exciting part of the year. And so
Yeah.
those were the films that I kind of latched onto. And then it was strange because in film school, I don't know. I guess I had sort of a reverse introduction to a lot of those movies.
Yeah. This is at USC Film School, right?
Yeah, and then I
Okay.
went to USC. I studied film there, and then I worked for a long time in just various crew positions, trying to make a living.
Yeah.
I worked as an editor for years. I worked as a writer, a DP, and just tried to get my first opportunity to direct. And it's
Yeah.
taken a lot longer than I hoped, but here we are.
It's a long journey, but you made it. You're a success story. That's why I like sharing with our listeners. If there's other aspiring filmmakers out there listening, like yeah, so, no journey's the same, but maybe they find some tips along of how
Yeah.
you pulled it off. So I guess your first short was Stasis, and then that led to a sci-fi network pilot, Solar.
Yeah.
Remind us those
Yeah.
early ones. What did you learn from those? And what I'm sure you probably look back and are like, oh, if I only knew then what I know now.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I when I first got out of film school, my big scramble was how am I going to earn any money?
yeah,
And I was working, editing things and doing music videos and just doing whatever I could. But then so I had this idea that like, well, the only way I'm going to get an agent and get to do money is to do genre stuff. And so I did these very genre, actually opposite of my sensibilities, sort of, or my core sort of stuff that I was interested in a lot of ways, because I felt like that's what I needed to do to try to
hmm
get a job. And it's not to say like I think I learned a lot of technical aspects of filmmaking doing those shorts and writing the specs that I did that were sort of very genre and kind of assignment-y.
yeah,
But as I got older and really wanted to direct my first feature, I really just wanted to, it was the first time in my career I just said, I'm just going to write something for me. I'm just going
right,
to write something I like. Who cares if I do this movie with puppets in my apartment, then that's going to be the end of it.
yeah,
But and weirdly that's the thing that ended up connecting the most, and I think you have to be true to your own voice, and it just took me a long time to feel like permission or confidence to just own that.
right.
And yeah.
And this is your first feature directorial debut? Is
It is.
that's how we're
Yeah.
positioning this? Yeah, because like you said, Stasis, Soil, those were like short film projects. And I know
Yeah.
you wrote the action thriller Proud Mary, the screenplay for it, 2018.
I was a writer on that. I
Co-writer,
can't say. Yeah,
various
and
drafts.
we got massively rewritten and taken
Yeah.
out of that process. So that's sort of an asterisk on that one. But
Well,
yeah.
it's all right. Everything all there's no wasted motion. You know what I mean? It was
Yeah.
building that had Taraji P Henson and Danny Glover, and so it got some big names attached, but a different director and probably a ton of different writers. But it's all we're all working towards this, and finally
Yeah.
you get your chance to do it. This is the one I'm going to put my stamp on, my vision, my
Yeah,
my
exactly.
the start of my auteur staples here.
Yeah, exactly.
It's too early to say the next Sidney Lumet, but that's your goal,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, you got to
um,
have a North Star, I think, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully Sovereign, kicks open the door for you to get many more directing opportunities. So obviously we're focused on this, but what is next? Is there anything I've seen tea leaves that you're collaborating with Werner Herzog on a TV series, Fordlandia, about Henry Ford's attempt to build an automobile factory in Brazil, like the Amazonian rainforest in the 20s. Is there truth to this? Is it still happening? It's on your IMDb upcoming, so what's the latest?
It is on there. It's been on there for a while. I was a junior writer that was brought onto that project by another writer named Chris Wilkinson, who has a lot of biopic work that he's done,
Hmm.
and developed this pitch for AMC. And pilot was written and all of that, but I don't think it's going to go forward. So my next project is going to be another feature, and I've got a couple of things I'm working on right now that hopefully I'm going to be able to share soon.
Okay, so Fordlandia is sort of in stasis, to borrow a term.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
That
it
one I
reminded
think
me
is.
that I was like, is Herzog really going to go back down to his Fitzcarraldo territory down there?
I
It's
mean,
kind
I
of,
wish it was
yeah,
so cool.
yeah,
I just think like it would have been the coolest thing, but I think it probably was too expensive.
probably won't happen.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
folks, if you need your Herzog fix, tune into the archives. We've interviewed him too. He's great. He's awesome. I'm just plugging right and left, but no, mostly I'm plugging your stuff. Okay, well, anything else you want to tease after Sovereign? Like, what other genres are you noodling with?
Yeah, I love true stories. If
Yeah,
it's not a true story, I love things that are rooted in like really like true events or real environments.
yeah,
I think I'm working on a couple things, but it's for me the process is always like I have to explore a lot of different directions until I know which one is the one that I really feel like is going to take the lead. And
yeah.
I think I have it, but I think it's a little too soon still to say. But crime, I love crime dramas and
Right.
drama and films that have something to say.
Absolutely. Well, we can't wait to see what's next. But first, everyone check out Sovereign in theaters today. Today. Yeah, anything else you want to say? Invite the listeners on out. Speak directly to
I
them. Tell them why they should come on out.
yeah, the film. I hope everybody, wants to see the. I don't know. I hope people come and see the film, and I hope they engage with it. And I just want to sort of give a shout out to my collaborators and my producer Nick Mosseri, Briarcliff Entertainment, and my incredible cast and everybody that worked on the film. We really poured our hearts into the movie, and we're all really proud of it. So we hope people enjoy it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Shout out Briarcliff. Hey, thank you so much for joining us. Everyone go check out Sovereign. I really, really appreciate you making it and for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks so much for listening to Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. Our theme music is Scott Buckley's Clarion. Remember to give us a 5-star rating if you like what you hear. We'll see you next time.